Human beings can be awful cruel to one another. Jim said that bees won't sting idiots, but I didn't believe that, because I tried them lots of times myself, and they wouldn't sting me. Right is right, and wrong is wrong, and a body ain't got no business doing wrong when he ain't ignorant and knows better. Hain't we got all the fools in town on our side? And hain't that a big enough majority in any town? What's the use you learning to do right, when it's troublesome to do right and ain't no trouble to do wrong, and the wages is just the same? Sometimes you gwinna to get hurt, and sometimes you gwinna to get sick, but every time you's gwinna to get well, Jean. Stars and shadows ain't good to see by. Now we'll start this band of robbers, and call it Tom Sawyer's gang. Everybody that wants to join has got to take an oath, and write his name in blood. Be respectful to your superiors, if you have any. The difference between the almost right word and the right word is really a large matter. 'Tis the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. I was seldom able to see an opportunity until it had ceased to be one. I have found out that there ain't no surer way to find out whether you like people or hate them than to travel with them. The only way to keep your health is to eat what you don't want, drink what you don't like, and do what you'd druther not. Truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't. He had discovered a great law of human action without knowing it, namely, that in order to make a man or a boy covet a thing, it is only necessary to make the thing difficult to obtain. The elastic heart of youth cannot be compressed into one constrained shape long at a time. Ah, if he could only die temporarily. Tom was a glittering hero, once more the pet of the old, the envy of the young. His name even went into immortal print, for the village paper magnified him. There were some that believed he would be president, yet if he escaped hanging, I could forgive the boy now if he'd committed 1,000,000 sins. He was not the model boy of the village. He knew the model boy very well, though, and loathed him. Work consists of whatever a body is obliged to do, and play consists of whatever a body is not obliged to do. Often, the less there is to justify a traditional custom, the harder it is to get rid of it. You only just tell a boy you won't ever have anybody but him. Ever, ever, ever. And then you kiss, and that's all. Anybody can do it. They said they would rather be outlaws a year in Sherwood Forest than President of the United States forever. As you perceive, the only person responsible for the couple's offense escaped. And not only escaped, but became the executioner of the innocent. No creature can be honorably required to go counter to the law of his nature, the law of God. The Bible has this advantage over all other books, that teach refinement and good manners, that it goes to the child, it goes to the mind at its most impressible and receptive age. The others have to wait. Your country and mine is an interesting one, but there is nothing there that is half so interesting as the human mind. I have been studying the traits and dispositions of the lower animals, so-called, and contrasting them with the traits and dispositions of man. I find the result humiliating to me. What the insane father required was blood and misery. He was indifferent as to who furnished it. The tiger, yes, the law of his nature is ferocity. The law of his nature is the law of God. He cannot disobey it. It shows you that when people have left a reproachful vacancy in a contract, they can be as shady about it in Bibles as elsewhere. Many men pray, not many of them like to do it. A few pray long. The others make a short cut. Life was not a valuable gift, but death was. Death was man's best friend. When man could endure life no longer, death came and set him free. Man is an experiment. The other animals are another experiment. Time will show whether they were worth the trouble. He is a marvel. Man is. I would I knew who invented him. It is curious, the way the human mind works. The Christian begins with this straight proposition, this definite proposition, this inflexible and uncompromising proposition. God is all-knowing and all-powerful. Human history in all ages is red with blood, and bitter with hate, and stained with cruelties. But not since biblical times have these features been without a limit of some kind. I am not in the humor for it. Kings cannot ennoble thee, thou good, great soul, for one who is higher than kings hath done that for thee. But a king can confirm thy nobility to men. But when weariness finally forced him to be silent, he was no longer of use to his tormentors, and they sought amusement elsewhere. Loose him and forbear. What dost thou know of suffering and oppression? I and my people know, but not thou. Learning softeneth the heart, and breedeth gentleness and charity. It does us all good to unbend sometimes. What God wills will happen. Thou canst not hurry it. Thou canst not alter it. Therefore wait and be patient. Let us change the tense for convenience. Fufu the first, king of the Munkalves, and when he awoke in the morning and looked upon the wretchedness about him, his dream had had its usual effect. It had intensified the sordidness of his surroundings 1,000-fold. The world is made wrong. Kings should go to school, to their own laws at times, and so learn mercy. Explosive, and was expected to blow him up. I couldn't bear to think about it, and yet, somehow, I couldn't think about nothing else. I do not wish any reward, but to know I have done the right thing. You can't pray a lie. I found that out. The average man don't like trouble and danger. He was sunshine most always, I mean. He made it seem like good weather. I was mighty downhearted. So I made up my mind I wouldn't ever go near that house again, because I reckon I was to blame. Somehow, that's just the way a person does a low-down thing, and then he don't want to take no consequences of it. Thinks as long as he can hide it, it ain't no disgrace. That was my fix exactly.